And welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson, and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hey, I'm DJ Ross. I'm in Mountain View, California.
Each week here on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week we're playing Alba, a wildlife adventure, Taiko no Tatsujin, Pop Tap Beat, and Biomutant is still a thing, and it's still here, and it's better than ever.
Oh, still loving it. Everybody loves a little Biomutant.
Yeah, a little, raccoon weasel thing that saves the world or something.
You're not always necessarily a raccoon, right? Like, everybody has their own unique Biomutant, isn't it? Like, that was my understanding.
Yeah. The little character creator in the beginning is very robust.
I feel like they're like potentially limiting their audience by having a little raccoon on the box. Like, that was my impression. You had to be a raccoon until I heard you talk about it.
Yeah, I tried so hard to make my guy kind of look like that little raccoon thing because, he's kind of an attractive raccoon. I figured if I'm going to save the world, I should be a good-looking little beast. Instead of mine, I don't know, I could share a picture of mine on Twitter. He's not the most, fetching varmint.
Not everything you hoped and dreamed for.
No, at some point I just got tired of sort of fiddling with all the little knobs and tweaky things in the character creator, and I was like, that's fine, that's good enough, I don't care, let's go. But maybe I should have spent a little more time mutating my Biomutant.
You can't change it later on?
I've not tried. I don't know, maybe, probably, who knows. He continues to mutate, so you do, like, encounter things that shape to a degree what he looks like and like the color of his fur and stuff like that over time. My little dude has sort of like bare forearms. There's no hair on him. And
that's weird.
My most recent mutation has like turned them bright red with like black sort of oily crawly things all up his arms. He's kind of badass looking in that way, but he's got a weird like a kind of a pointy head, and he's got an overbite with like Bugs Bunny teeth, and I'm like, I probably could have done a little better at that, but
it just keeps getting worse as you play the game.
I keep finding like helmets. I keep looting like gear for him, and every time I find a helmet, I'm like, yeah, let's cover up that face.
I need something with a face shield.
Right, exactly. A face only a mother could love.
Oh, that's what a tragedy.
Yeah, but I mean, I truly don't want to spend 6 hours talking about Biomutant, but I do want to talk that the game has been patched a number of times since release, and it is much more enjoyable than it was before. So, this is a situation where the developers didn't put out a day one patch. I was really surprised because I played this near launch and booted up the game, and it was ready to go right off the disc from the beginning. No big patch or anything like that. But like a week later, after reviews, after people kind of got their hand on it and started providing some feedback and stuff, they had a patch cooked up that was pretty extensive. And then a week later, there was another one. And it addressed a lot of the things about the narrator just being way too chatty and you having sort of long periods of sitting around waiting for a British guy to like translate everything in the world for you and to tell you very long, boring stories. So
gotta get their money's worth out of all those voice actor hours that they commissioned.
Exactly. So they sped that up. They put a couple of sliders behind that. There's a few other things that they tweaked in terms of the way combat feels and the way that you can sort of map some of the buttons and handle some of the combos and stuff like that. And it seems to sort of run a little smoother. I remember it being very kind of chuggy as I ran across the world and just playing it yesterday. I had a kind of a marathon session on Sunday because it was so freaking hot and I didn't want to leave the house. Yeah. I played quite a bit of Biomutant, and he definitely sort of is getting around the world much smoother now. And so everything that sort of felt like a bit of a chore in the past is just a little easier to do now, and it makes playing the game much more fun.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So that's it. That's my Biomutant piece. I mostly just wanted to say that they patched it. The devs on this seem sort of very connected to kind of community feedback and where reviews are going, and have gone, and are really kind of, happy to kind of manipulate the game to make it, more enjoyable for players.
Oh, good. Now everybody who gave it sort of those middling reviews closer to launch can go back and, update their opinions or whatever.
Maybe give it another whirl, yeah. It is, structurally, it remains a bit of a cluster. It is a video game that is just full of ideas, and none of them are sort of executed exceptionally well. But it is fun to be in. It is fun to play around in. It is fun to explore the world and, get into kind of scrappy battles with some of the combatants that you run into in the world. Still kind of a fun sense of discovery as you kind of, much like Breath of the Wild, kind of turn a corner and go, oh my God, there's a city here and I can explore and do stuff. So there's definitely sort of fun things to kind of unearth in this world. Yeah, I appreciate that, but it makes it a little easier to overlook the weird amalgamation of all of these kind of influences from disparate video games that they've kind of chucked into the cooking pot here.
I am fascinated by the fact that they turn the voice acting down. Like, I can't imagine how irritating it must have been to get them to have to do that.
To have spent a lot of money on a voice actor who basically is the sole voice you hear throughout the entire game, and then a week after release go, we need less of that.
Well, that's good. Yeah, obviously it was bugging people.
One of the things they addressed was that everybody you encounter in the world speaks to you in sort of a weird kind of animal language. This is like a kind of noise, and they sort of say their piece, their long sentence. And then the British guy narrating it sort of translates for you. So you have to sit through the critter saying it to you and then him translating it to you.
Oh, I don't know about that.
You have to pick your response. The critter responds. They translate again. And it felt like these encounters took forever, and they're not that interesting. The thing that I really appreciate is that they added sliders that you could kind of choose for yourself how much of the animalese you would like to hear before the narrator started translating.
Well, I was going to ask, so is it like a full line of animal language by default?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, somebody
now I'm seeing
clearly tried to sort of translate English to animal language, and made those sentences sort of feel like as long as they should for the proper statement the character was trying to say. Yeah, so you can tweak the sliders so that just as the critter starts speaking to you in animal language, the narrator immediately kicks in and translates sort of on the fly voiceover, and it's much quicker and better that way. And so that's exactly how I have it set up now, and it feels like, again, those encounters feel like they're a little swifter and a little easier to get through.
Can you just opt to have subtitles instead of the translator?
Probably. I haven't gone that way. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I kind of dig the British translator. He is a little a little verbose, but I like hearing from him every now and then. Plus, he gives me a little heads up sometimes in battle where I kind of get into the thick of things, and he'll go, "You're at half your health. You're on your last leg." He'll say things like that, and it's a little reminder to kind of pop open a med pack before you die if you're not paying sort of super close attention to your health meter.
Right.
So stuff like that I wouldn't want to lose. I wouldn't want to sacrifice those things.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
That makes me think of, I've talked before about how in the Monster Hunter games, or the most recent Monster Hunter games, they have their own unique Monster Hunter language voice track.
Yes.
In addition to English and Japanese. Yeah. And that's what I play on. And the Monster Hunter language lines tend to be much shorter than whatever they're actually saying in English. And they don't have an audio translation. They just have you get the Monster Hunter language line plus English or Japanese subtitles or whatever, which is perfect because by the time I finish reading the subtitles, they're done speaking usually. And a lot of the time I find myself thinking oh man, can you imagine if I just having to sit through everybody actually reading these entire lines? That would be a nightmare. But for some reason, Monster Hunter language, they just nailed the balance. It's perfect.
Yeah, that was a sort of a hard growth period for me, going from playing RPGs and JRPGs specifically, kind of on the DS and 3DS, to playing them on, the PlayStation 3 and 4, where, not a lot of games on the DS had like full voice acting and all the characters voiced by different voice actors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then you get on to kind of the home consoles, and they've clearly put a lot of money and resources into making sure that audio track is super detailed and well acted. And I feel bad for saying it, but more often than not, I just turn it off and read the subtitles, because I can read faster than they can act most of the time, and I just don't have the time to sit through all these dialogue conversations.
Like 90% of the time, no matter how much I'm into the voice acting, no matter how much I want to hear them actually read out the lines, it gets to the point where I'm just like, okay, I get it. I know what they sound like. I'm just going to start skipping through this stuff because I can read it much
Faster, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, at least I'm not alone in that.
Now, diminishing returns. I know everybody loves voice acting, but I want to get through all 100 hours of your JRPG, so gotta keep up the pace.
I feel like I could easily save 10 hours from my Dragon Quest XI playthrough if I just hammer through all the language.
Oh yeah,
as subtitles. Yeah.
You're playing it in 3D, right? I was doing the 2D one. I don't remember if that's voice acted at all.
Oh yeah, I was playing in 3D primarily.
Imagine how much time you'd be saving on Yakuza 7.
Yeah, that would be tough. Yeah, I'm playing that in English. You played it in Japanese, right? And read it?
Yeah. And actually that's an interesting thing to point out, because I've had an easier time. Like, I love the voice acting in that also, but it got to the same point where I was just like, okay, that's enough. Let's just get on with it. And I had a much easier time sort of skipping through it in Japanese, because I felt like I wasn't really cutting them off because I didn't totally understand what they were saying.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Oh man,
we're hurting anybody's feelings.
The Japanese voice actors in that are so good, though. I felt kind of bad.
I think the English ones, do a pretty good job as well.
I listened to them and I was like, okay, these guys are pretty good, but a few of the Japanese ones, they're just I don't know, they just have so much more character.
Really selling it.
The guy who does Ichiban is amazing, and the other guy, Adachi, the kind of security guard guy.
Yeah,
his voice is
retired cop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His voice is such a different character in the Japanese version. When I listen to it in the English guy, who's also fine, but just sounds like just some guy. Where
interesting.
I don't know what it is about the Japanese one. He just sounds like that character looks. I feel like it's really good.
I will have to look up some YouTube videos of it being played in Japanese, because that's not something I've done at all with that game. Cool. Man, we have a little show news we have to get to this week more than anything. This is episode 499 of Video Game Hangover.
Oh, it's happening.
Which means that, next week is episode 500. That's how these things work.
Wait, should we do another episode? Should we just end it?
Just pull the plug now.
Just cut it off.
Just go out on top.
Yeah.
Yep. So next week is episode 500, if you're lucky. And we would love to hear from you. Phone lines are open now if you'd like to leave us a message, ask us a question, review the show, comment on our voice acting, anything that you have kind of on your mind that you would like to share.
Recreate your favorite scene from Yakuza 7. Just do all the dialogue yourself.
You could absolutely do that. You should get in touch with us. You can call 682-999-VGH1. You can also text that number and get in touch with us. We would love to hear your voice. We'd love to hear from you any way you want to get in touch. The important thing is that you do it by midnight on June 25th. It's always midnight somewhere, so midnight wherever you are on June 25th is your deadline to get in touch with us. Otherwise, we can't guarantee that we can use your stuff on the show.
Right.
Yep. So other ways to get in touch with us, you certainly Twitter. We are VGHangover. You can email, it's either DJ or Randy at VGHangover.com. You can hop into the Discord and drop some communication to us there. So you've got no shortage of options. Go to VGHangover.com for all of those links.
Yeah. Hoping to hear from you. Time is running out.
It's coming up.
We're not going to do any more episodes after this, so this is your last chance.
Say farewell.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, we're doing more episodes, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Pretty sure.
That's, I mean, we've not discussed it, but I just assumed.
Are we having a cast change? Is it still going to be us? It's not going to be like VGHangover the next generation.
Today, the part of Randy Dickinson will be played by.
Oh, no,
Keanu
that would
Reeves.
be weird. I was just thinking they'd have their own names, but I was like,
Oh, no.
some other actor is going to step in.
Yeah. It'll be like in Destiny, when one voice actor did the voice of the moon through the entire game and nobody liked it. So they just deleted his voice and did a different actor.
I'll just be all Nolan North here on out.
Yeah. It was the dude from Game of Thrones initially, right?
Yeah, Peter Dinklage.
That's his name. Yeah, it's all kind of coming to me now. And then, nobody liked his voice acting. So they dumped it out of the game and replaced it with Nolan North.
We'll have, that's who we'll get. We'll get Peter Dinklage and Nolan North to play us, and it'll just be super awkward.
They can finally settle the Dinklage North rivalry we've all heard about.
Right. Is there more than one Dinklage North rivalry? I'm not sure. Is that the only one?
Anyway, so get in touch. We would love to hear from you. Other games. We've played some other games, right?
I played so many games this week. It's stupid.
I'll be the judge of that.
Oh, okay. But how many games I played, or how stupid it is?
How stupid they are. Let's find out.
Okay. Oh man.
No, what do you got? What did you spend time with this week?
Well, I was gonna play this game Alba, which we will talk about.
You were going to play it.
Well, I mean, I did play it, but
Okay,
as part of that, I had to go onto the Apple Store and download it because it's on Apple Arcade. And while I was in there, they had just released, or actually a few weeks ago at this point, I don't know, they released a mobile version of Taiko no Tatsujin, which I don't know if you've heard of this, but I bet you've seen it. It is a taiko drum music game. If you've been, I don't know if they have these at like Dave and Buster, but if you've been to some arcade in the last few years, you may have seen this. It's like a huge cabinet with a big fake or a couple of big taiko drums on the front. Taiko drum, just one of those enormous Japanese drums.
Yeah.
And then it's basically Guitar Hero, where notes scroll by on the screen, but you hit this enormous drum.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah. And now it's on your phone. I mean, they've done like home console versions of this as well, but this is I was not aware that there was a phone version.
Do the home console ones come with like a little plastic drum that you plug into your?
They do. Some editions do. You can buy a little plastic drum, plug into your Switch or PS4 or whatever. There was not an option to download a plastic drum on my phone, so unfortunately, I'm just playing
what a bummer.
The touch controls. But I thought, well, what a different Apple Arcade experience for me. Usually I just go in there and I kind of scroll through all these games. I'm like, what is this? What are these games? And this time it was like, Taiko no Tatsujin. I know the little goofy taiko drum mascot. Here he is. And now I'm going to download him. So I've been playing a bunch of that and having a good time with it.
Excellent.
It is so I haven't really played a lot of this series actually before this. Like I've played it a little bit whenever I run into it in an arcade. But I also just like, as much as I like rhythm games, this one is kind of difficult to spend a lot of time with because, like, if you've ever seen somebody playing it or if you've seen like an actual taiko drum performance, it is very physically intensive because you're just hitting a drum the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a very, and I have sort of this mental image in my brain of sort of seeing people play the taiko drums, and it's sort of like big, broad, kind of like, arm movements. You're really kind of hammering away at the drum set.
Yeah, it was like serious drumming.
Yeah.
Hashtag
serious drumming.
I have to admit I don't get that into it when I play it, but I can imagine, if you look up Taiko no Tatsujin super plays on YouTube or whatever, there are probably some ridiculous performances.
So, are you, DJ, one of the DDR people who really doesn't put any flourish or emphasis on the presentation for those of us who are watching? Do you really just kind of tap away?
Dude, I can't, I'm not at the point where that, I can be thinking about that. I'm just like, let me hit the notes and then we will worry about the performance aspect. If you're watching me play it, I'm sorry. And also, like, please stop watching me play DDR.
Right. You're just making me self-conscious.
Yeah, yeah. But so, short answer, no.
Okay, gotcha. Nor am I. I'm horrible at DDR. The few times that I've attempted to play it, or Dance Central, or any of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Dance
really Central is all about the performance, though, isn't it? That's the Kinect one.
Yes, I believe. Yeah, you've got to get that the production quality of that pretty high, I think.
Yeah. Man, I have seen. I mean, not to just go on a bunch of tangents about rhythm games, but why not?
No, please.
Like,
this is what we do. You've heard the show before, right?
Like, I've played my share of rhythm games in the arcade, and a lot of it is just like, I'm still at that level. I'm like, just let me get past the song, not thinking about how this looks to everybody watching. And some of these I played, I'm just like, this is gonna look like the stupidest thing ever, because I'm just doing, the bare minimum, like, hand movements or whatever. Like, this feels ridiculous. But then I will, like, walk away from the machine, and one of these, like, pros will step up to it and just, like, bust out the most ridiculous, like, flourishes and dance moves. And I'm like, oh, okay. So when, like, somebody who is good at playing this game is doing it, it's actually pretty awesome to watch.
Oh, that's what that's supposed to look like.
Yeah,
exactly. Yes, yeah. Yeah, no, I guess very similar experiences, primarily at PAX. Dave & Buster's, it feels like it's generally kind of like and those are the two places that I consume arcade games these days. Dave & Buster's, it feels like it's sort of half-drunk people kind of stumbling their way through it. But at PAX, I mean, these people are devoted to this thing and really put a lot of, like, time and energy into making sure they're putting on a show for those of us who are watching.
Right. The ones who bring a water bottle with them. You're like, oh, okay, watch out for this guy.
Right. So people playing sort of Dance Central or DDR or Just Dance or something like that, and like have it all synced up where the two of them are doing spins together and little high fives between moves and stuff like that. I'm like, you guys are the best and the worst of us.
What do you mean the worst of us? Come on.
That's fine. It's cool. I'm not good at things like that, so I have to be a little bit jealous and angry about it.
Nothing but respect for all those people. Oh, I see. It's just resentment because you're not at that level.
That's the word. Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Okay, good. Save that one. But anyway, Taiko no Tatsujin.
Anyway,
it's on my phone now, and I get to, like, actually spend a lot of time. I've played a lot of songs on it. It's pretty fun.
Hey,
just
tapping away with your little fingers on a little virtual drum set, or how does it
tapping away. So how it works is you have in this case, a virtual drum on the bottom of the screen, and in Taiko no Tatsujin you have several different types of notes, but mostly they are red and blue. For the red notes, you hit the center of the drum. For the blue notes, in the arcade, you would hit the sort of the rim of the drum. On the phone, you hit just to the sides of it. And that is, I think it's like, it's supposed to be like if you had hit the sticks together, it makes sort of that clicking sound. I don't actually know if you hit the side of the drum in a real Taiko performance. I'm not that familiar with it. But that's the basic setup. So you have these red and blue notes scrolling by. And it's super fun. One of the things that really struck me is that in the arcade, like whenever I've played it, or whenever I watch other people play it, because that is, like, just to be honest, how I usually consume this game in the arcades. I'll just be like, oh, let's let them do their thing.
Yeah.
I feel like usually, I go for the familiar songs if there's something on there that I've heard before, just so I, like, kind of know what to expect. Or if somebody else is playing it, they'll go for, like, well, usually there's, like, the Mario Brothers theme, or, like, the Zelda theme, or some, like, anime opening theme or something very familiar. It's like a lot of rhythm games where they just kind of fit different pop music in there.
Gotcha.
So I was like, okay, that's fun. That's fine. But in this one, since I have the time to just peruse the entire song list, I've kind of gone through the entire thing at this point. And there are a lot of them that are more or less, they're less pop songs. I mean, they're still kind of poppy, but they sound more like, I guess, a song you would hear at a Japanese festival where they would actually have a Taiko performance. And sort of like very eye-opening, or ear-opening, I suppose, to play these in Taiko no Tatsujin, because I was like, oh, okay, so all those other songs felt like you were just kind of shoehorning a Taiko drum track into all the, like, the Mario theme. Like, there are no drums in it. But when
Right.
you play one of these songs that sounds like it's at a festival, you're like, oh, it sounds like I'm actually playing along at, like a big fancy Japanese festival or whatever.
Cool. And these are like modern songs, modern arrangements, or are they sort of like traditional Japanese taiko songs? I assume such a thing exists.
Oh, I could not tell you. I mean, it
You don't
sounds
know. Okay.
it sounds very like traditional Japanese to me, I suppose. They're maybe a little
Official
updated.
Japanese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Japanese game, so doesn't that just make all of them by definition authentically Japanese? I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I would go with you on that.
But I was playing these songs, that sounded more like the festival stuff, and I thought, well, this is interesting. It's so different than playing something like Rock Band or Guitar Hero, where it's just, songs you hear on the radio. And this one feels more or less like a taiko drum simulator. And then I sort of exhausted that small list of songs and went back into playing they have a bunch of game music selections or anime themes, I guess. And I found I was a little disappointed that they didn't lean more into that just typical taiko sound. I would have been totally fine if they had an entire track list that was just, I don't know if there are go-to taiko songs. If you go to a big taiko festival, everybody's like, oh, I wonder if they'll play this one. This is my favorite taiko arrangement. I have this on all my taiko albums that I listen to at home. That sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. You would think that they would lean a little more into kind of the cultural, I assume most of us sort of consuming it here in, this side of the globe. This is a relatively new art form, and that we have sort of presumptions about it from movies and things like that, and going to Epcot Center. But I think it would be kind of a mission on behalf of the developers, or at least an added bonus to kind of lean into the cultural education of the history of taiko.
Sure. I understand it's a music game for mass audiences, so they have to have the variety of songs just so people have something to sort of latch on to. But I would love if they had just the Taiko Enthusiast song pack that you could download or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's the good news about rhythm games, is that they can always sort of add more stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's the good news about any game.
Right. Although it's a kind of a question I have about this one, because it is unclear to me. It doesn't seem like there's currently an option to add more songs.
Oh.
I mentioned this is an Apple Arcade thing, so already this is sort of a weird sort of pricing model. It's $5 a month subscription to get access to this thing, which is also kind of a gripe to me, because if I find a music game, I kind of just want to have it available. I don't necessarily want to be subscribed to it, although I understand there's a whole other ton of games on Apple Arcade. I'm still not just getting this game. But I don't know, music games tend to have more longevity on my phone than other games, so there may come a day where I just decide, well, I've had enough with Apple Arcade. Kind of want to keep the Taiko game around, though. So
now you lose access to that.
Not sure what to do. Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe until they announce some sort of DLC plan. I don't even know if Apple Arcade games have DLC. I feel like that's kind of the point. It's that they don't. I guess it remains to be seen.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Because, the hook with sort of Apple Arcade, and there's a Google Play version of that as well, is that they're supposed to be sort of curated to be complete sort of experiences. They're not really supposed to have sort of in-app purchases and stuff like that.
Yeah. What is the Google Play one called?
I think it's called the Play Pass.
Oh, okay.
I was just looking to see if this game was on Google Play, and it is not. It's called the Play Pass.
Interesting.
And it is, what is it? $30 a year.
That's not bad. It's cheaper than Apple Arcade, I think. Yeah.
Try it free for a month, and then $4.99 a month. Try it free for a month, and then $4.99 a month afterwards if you want to. And it's a curated collection of games that you can share with everybody in your family.
How nice.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I forgot what I was saying. So sort of the state of the song list, or the future state of the song list, is unclear. And the current song list, as much fun as I had with it, feels a little limited, especially when you sort of filter out all the songs that I'm not really interested in playing a lot. Like they always have the like the 4 or 5 sort of public domain songs, like the William Tell Overture, also not a traditional Taiko song, but sure. And they had like the My Little Pony theme, and whatever Baby Metal's big single was. I was just like, oh man, remember Baby Metal?
I do remember Baby Metal.
Yeah.
I forget what that song was though.
But so, just a weird selection across the board of songs like that.
Through the Fire and Through the Flame?
They did not have that one,
no.
though. It would have been a nightmare.
It feels like a missed opportunity, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Seems like a prime choice for DLC if they ever get that going.
There you go.
Anyway, I found like...
There should be a law that song should just appear in every rhythm game ever.
Mandatory in every rhythm game.
We are required by law to include Through the Fire and Through the Flame.
That's probably how you get a lot of Guitar Hero fans or Rock Band fans to just check out every new rhythm game that comes out. They've got to do like, just be like, I have 100%ed Through the Fire and Flames on every platform. So
you're right.
Be that guy.
Excellent.
Anyway, so I feel like in its current state, the checklist feels a bit limited. But spending time with this game has got me kind of curious about its, how the ports on other platforms are doing. Although I believe, unless I were to actually invest in one of these, third-party Taiko drum controllers, I think you're just limited to button controls on just a regular controller. And
right.
I kind of feel like, in a way, playing it on a touchscreen, you're already kind of closer to the arcade experience of playing it on that actual drum, or like the fake drum or whatever, than just using buttons. Because you have the option, like I can just sync a PS4 controller with my phone to play this, but the thought of that, I was like, I don't know if I would like that. Like, tapping the screen feels kind of like playing a drum. I mean, I know it's not
like you're beating on a drum. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So I don't know. I don't know if I would be satisfied with the console port if I didn't have one of those ridiculous drum controllers. I imagine, I assume the console track lists and DLC situation are much more robust than the current state of the Apple Arcade version. But man, I don't know. I kind of like the touchscreen for this game.
Cool. Sounds like fun. I would check this out. Absolutely check this out. Hopefully it makes its way over to the Android side of the world at some point.
Yeah. I don't really know what the deal with Apple Arcade exclusivity is. It seems like a lot of games that come out for it eventually sort of show up on other stuff. But this one came out in the last month or so it might be a little bit.
I mean, it's the story with Alba. Alba started as I believe the first place it came out was a Apple Arcade game, and now it's many other places. Yeah.
So who knows? I mean, if you're really curious, you could check it out on the Switch or whatever. You would just have to deal with an alternate control scheme.
Switch has a touchscreen. I can just tap, tap, tap.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I wonder if that would work. Yeah. Okay, there you go. Oh, man, I didn't even think about that.
Problem solved.
I have not yet broken out, I have a bunch of styluses for my phone that I never use, but I thought about using it for this, and it's I don't know if I'm there yet. Doing fine with my fingers.
Yeah. Those extra accessories are tough to sell me on sometimes. I feel every time I see, I'm interested in the pivoting here, the Game Builder Garage on the Switch.
Oh, yeah.
This sort of recently released tool essentially for building video games. And every time they show sort of the builder aspect of it in action, it's somebody with a mouse hooked up to their Switch. And I'm like, I don't want to hook up a mouse to my Switch. That seems like that's just one step too far, man. If I can't do it with a what you call it, little Joy-Con, I'm probably not going to do it.
You just hook up any old mouse to it? You don't have to get a special Nintendo mouse?
I'm not sure what the $69.99
right.
Available in 3 convenient monthly installments. No, I don't know. I assume it's just any USB mouse. Those are pretty universal and ubiquitous, right?
Interesting. I hadn't seen that in action. I'm very curious about that, but kind of waiting for the people to get the custom library built up before I check it out, because I don't think I'll be spending a lot of time building stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of similar to a Little Big Planet kind of experience for me, is I mostly just want to play other people's creations.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I will definitely build like half of a semi-interesting video game and then never finish it. But I expect most of the time I'll just be playing other people's stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I just got to plug a USB mouse into that. But even that feels like an extra unnecessary step, particularly since my Switch is hooked up to a giant television in my living room. I would need a very long cord on that
Right.
on that mouse.
That would be ridiculous. Just a mouse cord stretching across your entire living room.
So I can make a shoddy video game nobody will play.
Right. Anyway,
Yeah.
Taiko no Tatsujin Pop Tap Beat. If you have Apple Arcade, what's your excuse? Check it out, especially if you like rhythm games. I have to see what other rhythm games are on there, see if I'm missing out on any sort of freebies.
Cool. That's a fun and random find.
Yeah. I'm so glad it popped up because I've always been curious about, like, the Switch version or whatever. But I was like, do I need the drum controller? If it's going to work on a regular controller? I don't know. So this is a great excuse to check it out.
It seems like a very noisy proposition for an apartment dweller too. Like if you're
that's the other thing. Like
banging on a plastic drum, it's gonna annoy somebody.
I think it would I don't even know how much I would be able to deal with it. Like my own playing, just tapping very loudly on this thing. Who knows?
Yeah, did you get a little concert going? A little sort of cross-cultural, Samba de Amiga meets Taiko no Tatsujin, like maracas versus taiko drums. Impromptu concert in your living room.
That would be quite a thing.
And just see how quickly you get evicted.
Right, well, yeah, you got to worry about
that. That's the unfortunate fallout. So we mentioned Alba briefly. So the full title here is Alba, A Wildlife Adventure. I have been kind of enamored with just the look and the marketing of this game since it popped up on Apple Arcade I think September, October, November of last year. I think it popped up. And waiting quite impatiently for it to appear on other consoles. And it finally showed up on the Switch, and I believe it's on kind of PlayStation as well in the last couple of weeks. This is just a cute and delightful one of those kind of, cozy games, one of those wholesome games by Us2, the developers of the Monument Valley games. They also made... what's it called? Not Some Assembly Required. What's that game called, DJ?
I thought that's what it was called. Isn't that right?
Assemble with Care.
Assemble with Care, yeah. Well, they also made Some Assembly Required. I don't know.
Which you played, and I remember you sort of talking about it on the show in the past.
Yeah.
A sim about sort of fixing kind of electronics.
A sim, yeah, you put stuff back together and just get the most saccharine sort of backstory of what the thing was for.
So, Alba, A Wildlife Adventure is a bit of a pivot. It's kind of an open world game. You play a little girl, Alba, who is spending the summer on a Mediterranean island with her grandparents. In the island, while populated by a lot of fun and friendly and polite people, is a bit of a pit. Unfortunately, it's the beaches are a mess. The wildlife is in distress. There are unscrupulous developers who are trying to build giant hotels on the island and lure a lot more tourists and things like that. So good people everywhere, but there are some bad eggs in the mix who are not treating the island with respect.
Yeah. I don't think it's nearly as bad as you're making it out to sound. Like, no? It seems like a nice place.
It's I get the impression that it's a little grubby sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, occasionally you walk past the trash can and there'll be like a soda can next to it. But when isn't there a soda can next to a trash can? Yeah,
I feel you. The trash can's right there. You couldn't make,
right.
the extra step to actually get it into the part on top that holds the trash.
Yeah. But generally, pretty pleasant little island.
Yeah. Beautiful sunsets, breezes, lots of wildlife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And overwhelming amounts of wildlife.
Just a ridiculous amount everywhere you turn. Wildlife, yeah. There's so it's your mission over the summer to, among other things, essentially catalog all of the wildlife on the island and try to clean it up sort of while you're at it. So you and your little friend Inez band together to kind of clean up the beaches and throw all the trash away and repair all the little birdhouses on the island and a number of other things, repairing the bridge at the nature sanctuary, so that you can kind of cross the bridge and take pictures of different kinds of birds and stuff like that live over there.
Yeah, so you can get the sort of, like, all the wildlife is divided up by sort of habitat. So by rebuilding the bridge, you can access more habitats.
Yeah. And that's it. I mean, there are a few little conflicts that kind of pop up. I mentioned the unscrupulous developer and things like that. So you have a mission to kind of collect signatures to shut down the development of the island and keep it a little wild. But for the most part, you spend your time basically filling a catalog. It's the developers call it a chillectathon, that you kind of collect photos of birds and squirrels and other little sort of wildlife creatures around the island at a pretty slow pace, at a pace that feels sort of fun to you, assuming you find that kind of thing fun.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the game for people who are just like, oh my god, 100 coins on this island. I can't rest until I got them all. So let's go get those coins. I need to get them all tonight by midnight.
No, the game really never comes at you with that kind of pressure, which I sort of appreciate. Some of those things, Mario games are especially insidious at this, where you sort of get to the end and you're like, oh, you found, 3 of the 4 big coins. Like, yeah. Where the hell's that 4th coin? I'm going to have to play this level over and over again until I find it. And there's
I like
really
that
nothing
this feels like you have a couple different objectives. Like, you could be adding stuff to your catalog. There's sort of like a main story path through it. But whichever one of those things I'm focusing on, feels like I could just as easily be doing the other thing and the game wouldn't really care.
Yeah. There's kind of a day cycle, like a day and not really a night, sort of day into evening. And at the end of the day, your friend Inez is like, I'm going to go home and eat dinner with my family. And your grandma will call you and say, when you're ready to come home, we have dinner on the table. But like, it doesn't end. It doesn't sort of kick you back to your grandma's house. It doesn't make you stop playing. You just continue to kind of chill on the island, kind of explore and wander and pick up trash and fix birdhouses and take pictures of rare and exotic birds on the beach and stuff like that. Yeah. As long as you want. It doesn't sort of force you to stop if you're not ready to stop. And if you want to sort of kick the next day into gear and have the game shoot a few more objectives to you, a few more goals to accomplish over the course of another very chill day on the island, you go home, you have some paella, and you start all over again the next day. So I dig that it doesn't try to railroad you swiftly through kind of a campaign,
right?
In the interest of kind of keeping you engaged.
I'm sure this doesn't happen, but I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm just thinking, I can't wait till I just progress through the days too quickly and I get to like the end of the week or whenever. And it's like, whoop, you didn't collect enough signatures to get the developers to stop, so now they're just going to pave over the entire island. I feel like they are good about, like, they make you collect, or they give you objectives to collect a certain amount of wildlife at a certain pace.
Yeah.
But also I imagine there's not just going to be like a point of no return cutoff where you have to sort of deal with the consequences of not being like diligent enough in your wildlife cataloging.
You get the bad ending? Is that what?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's a bad ending in this game, but I'm just imagining, because there's always this pressure to like, well, you got to go out there and get those signatures and keep on taking pictures of the birds out there. But at the same time, you don't really have to do either of those things. Yeah,
I think, and I haven't sort of filled the entire petition yet, so I'm not collected every signature I need to collect. But it's not about you necessarily sort of going, not at all about you going kind of door to door and saying, will you please sign this? It's about you kind of wandering the island and looking for opportunities to kind of do good deeds. And people will sort of appreciate you for that. Oh, thank you so much for repairing the bridge. Let me sign your petition. Thank you so much for fixing the bird boxes or picking up the trash on the beach. Let me sign your petition. So it's about... it's not about collecting signatures. It's about doing good, and the signatures come anyways.
Right.
And I sort of like that, they kind of backdoored that a little bit. And it's, sure, it teaches, I think, gamers a little bit about, taking matters into your own hands and doing good for the sake of good. And it's got a little bit of kind of an anti-corporate streak to it, too, which I kind of dig and appreciate. But it's pretty sly about all of these things. It's teaching, maybe younger players about conservation and appreciating wildlife. And it never really gets kind of oppressive or preachy about those kinds of things. It's pretty sly, pretty subtle. It really is Pokemon, if you want it to be. It can be just you wandering the island and taking pictures of critters if you prefer to consume it that way.
Yeah. It's actually very well designed around that, because you have the whole catalog, and I believe, so even if you haven't actually taken a picture of it, you still have the entire catalog of, it's mostly birds, but there are other types of animals in there as well.
Yeah.
And they have a picture of it birds. And kind of a hint of where it can be found. But then what I thought was really interesting was you can hear, the sound it makes, the bird call, and then you can just kind of listen for that. And there was this one bird that I was missing, and I was like, I have no idea where to even begin looking for this. So I'll just kind of remember what it sounds like. If I ever hear it, I will stop and look around. And then, I got distracted by something else. I was supposed to go investigate some other part of the island, and on my way there, I heard the bird call. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, excellent.
That's it. And so I just froze in my tracks and kind of looked around. Until I was like, oh, there it is. It's all the way up in that tree. And I managed to snag a picture of it.
Excellent.
But what a cool feature. I can't remember another game sort of using an audio cue quite like that. I mean, it makes perfect sense for a bird watching game.
Yeah. And, I don't know. I'm intrigued by kind of bird watchers. I particularly in New York City, where you don't have a lot of green space, sort of the devotion that New Yorkers have to Central Park, and sort of the bird watching community that is pretty hardcore in New York City, because that's really the only place to sort of appreciate nature in that way. And yeah, it always seems so odd to me that they're the hardcore bird watchers are so conditioned to being able to kind of hear a specific call and know exactly what bird that is. I'm like, wow, what a weird and specific kind of talent, I guess, or just the ability to sort of remember something like that. My brain, I feel like, is just filled with so much noise most of the time, and it's mostly garbage pop music and stuff like that. It's just not kind of culturally useful things, but to be in a park and be able to hear an interesting noise and go, I know exactly what kind of bird that is. That's a rare and interesting thing to me. And it's cool that there is basically a feature in Alba that teaches you that if you choose to learn it. Yeah.
I don't know how accurate this is supposed to be. I mean, it feels very authentic. I hear some of these and I'm like, oh, I've heard that bird before. I don't know if I realized that's what the bird was, but that sounds like a real bird call. So that's very interesting.
Yeah. Pigeons are the only ones I can kind of like.
Yeah.
Oh,
pigeons.
I know that noise.
I mean, yeah, on some level, a lot of birds just sound like birds to me. Yep, that is a bird.
That is in fact a bird.
I can pick out a pigeon or a mourning dove or whatever.
Yeah.
But the rest of them, I need to spend a little more time with the bird index.
But you have a little app on your phone, for the sake of our listeners who are sort of trying to figure this out, that if you pointed at a wildlife creature, if you've cataloged them before, it will tell you, oh, it's this thing that you've took a picture of before. If it's a new one, it sort of lights up yellow at the top of your phone screen, and it says unidentified creature. And if you take a picture, it will sort of scan them into your kind of collection and give you a little kind of information about them and their Latin name and stuff like that. So, seeing a bird and kind of pointing the camera at them, and particularly after a few hours of playing the game and getting a lot of things in your catalog, when you get that little yellow indicator that says this is a new creature, is very exciting because it feels like, I've cataloged everything on this island. There can't be many more left that I've not. But yeah, when it tells you there's something new, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I had something, like I was trying to get a picture of some bird because I was sure I hadn't photographed it before. And sure enough, I had. So I was like, oh man. And then just as I was putting my phone away, something like flew right across my screen, and it was like unidentified, and then it was gone. So it's like, oh no, where did it go? It's somewhere around here. I gotta find it.
Yeah, I've had similar experiences, and my gamer brain is like, well, they must all be on a loop. They must be on patrol patterns. Basically, they're like guards in video games, right? So if I just stand here. Right, exactly. All of my Splinter Cell training has led me to this place. I just feel like sort of if I stand here again and point the camera, they'll fly by one more time at some point. I just have to wait for them to finish their patrol loop.
Right.
Yeah,
I think
it has not quite worked out like that every time for me. But
I think I can't tell exactly how it works. It does feel like it ultimately turns into that. But it does manage to feel very organic because if you miss one and it's left the post where it was perched for a moment, you're just like, oh man, probably should start looking elsewhere rather than just keeping my camera fixated on this one spot, because it's usually a while before it comes back to that spot.
Yeah, I love her little sort of tiptoe animation. If you hold down the shoulder button, she kind of creeps up on the critters so you don't scare them away, because the birds tend to be pretty skittish and if you're trying to get a good picture and they fly away, it's very frustrating. Well, not very frustrating. Yeah. It's mildly frustrating in a way that only this kind of game can be.
Right, yeah. Alba, just a game known for being maddeningly frustrating. I was going to ask, how is this playing on the Switch? How is it? I mean, it sounds fine.
Yeah, I've played it handheld and docked. Looks great, plays great. Certainly sounds excellent coming out of my giant speakers on my television. It sounds a little less impressive coming out of the tiny little speakers on the Switch Lite, but no, it's a beautiful game. Again, I continue to be sort of impressed by kind of the sunsets and the vistas you get with and during sort of specific parts of the island that you're on. It's a game that sort of allows for moments like that too. You'll get to kind of an overlook or something like that, and there'll be a little chair. If you walk up to the chair and push the action button, Alba would just sit down in the chair and sort of enjoy the sunset.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. I don't know if I found that yet.
Oh, I think I found 3 points so far that are like that. 2 of them are kind of scenic overlooks, and one of them is just a beautiful spot by a lake. And you should pull up a little chair and, just admire the scenery for a little while. And yeah, it's beautiful. I love that kind of stuff in video games. Just games that have some patience. It's, I like kind of go, kind of consume sometimes in video games. I appreciate kind of that intensity and that action, but not every game has to be that. Sometimes it's about kind of the little moments in between.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I was kind of waiting for this to come out on other platforms because it's been on Apple Arcade for a while.
It doesn't seem like it would be a great game to play touchscreen.
Well, here's the thing.
Because it's big. It's a lot of running around and doing stuff.
I was like, I want to play this on console so I can have analog sticks and all that. And then I thought, as long as I got the Apple Arcade thing going, for some reason they put this out on phones first, so they must feel pretty good about it. Let me give it a try. So I've been playing this on my phone, and I've been very pleasantly surprised with the experience.
Oh, nice.
So first of all, it's portrait mode, which I was not expecting, and that is not I don't really have anything against portrait mode games. I just think it is such an unusual thing. Even a lot of games I play on my phone are not in portrait mode. They're more in sort of just the landscape, traditional TV orientation. Mm-hmm. And I know it must be if it works on a TV on consoles, so it's kind of weird that they just have almost 2 different versions where it just works in either portrait or landscape.
Yeah. Just I feel like you must be missing a lot of field of view left and right if you're
it does feel like you don't get quite as much of the vistas, maybe the wide panoramic sunsets, I suppose.
Yeah, that's why they took all those little chairs out. So you can't appreciate that. On the phone,
right. Okay.
PJ,
so yeah,
those aren't even in your copy of the
don't
game.
even bother on the phone. I guess.
No beautiful sunsets for you.
But what I'm really enjoying about it is like touchscreen controls are fine, but when you pull out your phone, you basically just like the phone sort of works as like you control the phone with the gyroscope with minor sort of touch control assistance. And I sort of got an inkling that like, I wonder if I pull up my phone out, if I can just sort of pan around my room and that it'll like map to whatever's going on in the game. And sure enough, yeah, you pull out the phone and then you just move your phone around to put the viewfinder on whatever animal you're trying to capture or photograph, capture with a camera, that is. And then you like zoom in and out by sliding a little control on the virtual phone and just hit the shutter button and it takes a picture. But I've had all these great experiences where I'm, just walking around with the touchscreen and I'll see a bird go by. It'll like be flying up to perch somewhere in a tree. So I'll take my phone out and just like point it up in the corner of my room or something, or like spin around so I can try and get a picture of this bird like I'm shooting it with an actual camera, which is exciting, I think.
Yeah. That is a good argument for playing it on a phone. I feel like that the sort of fidelity of controlling that with sticks on the Switch is not great.
Yeah.
I feel like it moves too fast or too slow sometimes. I miss a lot of shots, or I get a lot of kind of crappy pictures of like the back of a bird I'm trying to take a picture of, which still count for cataloging, but as somebody who tries to take good pictures, it's not satisfying in that way.
Yeah.
So and the Switch has good gyroscopes. I don't know why they don't use that on the Switch.
Do they not do that? Well, that's disappointing.
I'm going to have to try, because it did not even occur to me until you said it that would be an option. I will have to look in the settings, on, at least in the handheld mode, to see if that is an option. I mean, if you're playing on TV with like a Pro controller, the Pro has a gyroscope too, so you could even do it that way. But I don't know that that's in there.
That was like one of my favorite things about Breath of the Wild, is that it had the traditional sort of like aiming controls if you're shooting your bow. Or you had a camera in that game too.
Yeah.
But basically, anytime you're looking around in first person and aiming a reticle, you could use the sticks and also just do some fine tuning with the gyroscope. And I was like, well, this is great. Why doesn't every game work like this?
Yeah, I don't ever want to play another game where I have a bow and arrow where I don't have that option.
Yeah. So it's super cool having it in Alba. And it just makes even more sense because you spend a lot of time in this game using your smartphone to take pictures. So it feels kind of perfect for it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm intrigued by, and I've not played a lot of games like this where you have your sort of primary tool for interacting with the world is taking pictures. Mm-hmm. Sort of the Pokemon Snap model of gameplay. You played that game where you're taking pictures of ghosts, was something Park, right?
Pinko Park. That was on Steam, so don't really have a gyroscope set up.
Right.
That was fine. That was controls very well.
Yeah. But I could think of other games where that was a thing. Beyond Good and Evil, you were a photographer, you had a camera in that.
Sure.
And we're taking pictures of things in the environment and the wildlife. It had a whole sort of cataloging feature. So yeah, I don't know. I like that that's a thing in games.
Yeah.
And I especially like that a game, like Alba comes along where the entire hook of the game for the most part is kind of based around interacting with the world that way.
Yeah. I want to say that like Gravity Rush on the PS4 had sort of gyro controls, because there was a photo mode in that as well.
That started life as a Vita game, and I remember that being very much a thing on the Vita.
The new Monster Hunter has it, which is kind of surprising, but you do end up doing a lot of aiming in that game as well. I think it's really good. I'm really happy to see that like even games that are not strictly like photography based are adding in gyro options, because like I have a hard time like doing fine aiming with the sticks a lot of the time, but sometimes it's just like moving your controller like 1 degree to the side to line up that crosshair is like all you need. So it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Boom, headshot.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So I'm enjoying this. If you know, listeners, if you can't tell by sort of the enthusiasm I have here, I have a lot of fun with this game. I'm pretty taken by it. I think it's super cute, and I think it's one of those things that is just kind of interesting in a subversive kind of way. If you were to play this with kids or give it to your kids to play with, I think it teaches some interesting lessons about how to be kind of a good citizen of the world and stuff like that. And I admire that. It is not a game about that necessarily, but there is sort of that lesson to take from it. And I think that's cool.
It feels like every interaction you have, and this is very positive. Like there are a lot of situations where, you're just a little kid running around talking to, townspeople.
Yeah.
And there are some situations where I imagine like, oh man, if some little kid just ran up to somebody while they were like doing yoga or something, they would probably be very irritated. But no, in this case, they're just like, oh, just doing my yoga.
Everybody's always happy to see you.
Yeah, exactly. They always have something nice to say.
Yeah. I think there is a weird, I don't know, kind of wall that this game runs into that you and your little friend Inez, I don't know how old these kids are, maybe 8? They feel young.
Oh no, they're like, I figured they were like early, like maybe 13 or 14.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't get that vibe.
It's confusing because they look very young, but then like 10 years pass.
They're little kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's better. But you are running around an island unsupervised for much of the game.
Yeah.
And you are chasing wildlife. At some point, your friend Inez is trying to get you to go search for a lynx. And I'm like, don't search for the lynx. Right. That's very dangerous. Right. Let's get an adult.
That comes up very early. Like the first time I saw it, I was like, oh no, don't get away from that thing. But then you just get the sense that like, oh, this is just going to be a recurring thing. They're just always trying to find that lynx for the rest of the game. It's like, is this a good thing to be teaching kids? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe don't go searching for a lynx.
Yeah, I haven't seen sort of the resolution of that thread, but I hope there's something in there that like, oh, this lynx was nice. Usually, maybe avoid those.
Yeah. But other than that, sort of, dissonance, it has been a very enjoyable experience, and I'm looking forward to playing more of it.
Yeah, glad I finally got to check it out. Glad it is on more stuff.
Worth the wait. All right. Well, I guess we should wrap this episode up. If you somehow missed the beginning of the show, episode 500 is next week. We would love to hear from you, so call us at 682-999-VGH1 and leave us a message. Anything you'd like to say to us, any questions you'd like to ask, compliments are free all day. We'll take those. Definitely reach out. We would love to include you in some way in our 500th episode.
Yeah. Just keep it to 500 words or less.
Exactly.
Or more. Who knows? There are no rules.
If you need any more video game hangover in your brain in the interim, you should definitely follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. And you can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this episode at VGHangover.com. We would love for you to join us on Discord, hang out and talk about video games and other things. You can get a link to that at VGHangover.com as well. Subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere else you can get a podcast. And help us out by telling your friends about the show.
Yeah, please tell them about the show. As you said, it really helps us spread the word, get more people listening. We really appreciate it. Man, I got so excited talking about a Biomutant at the start. I forgot to give a shout out to our intro music, which was provided this week by Brother Android. Track called Vector Sum from one of his original albums. And on the way out, you're going to hear a track from Super Hexagon by Chipsel. So please enjoy that. And head over to VGHangover.com. Get links to their band camps and all that stuff.
Those are good. Those we are sort of revisiting some of these songs for the first time in quite a few years. And I remember using the Brother Android tracks and the Chipsel tracks quite fondly, and it's given me an opportunity to go back and kind of explore those albums a little bit more. And man, we have really good taste in music, TJ.
Oh yeah, no, the best.
Yep.
Just impeccable.
All right, we'll be back next week for episode 500. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See you.